Good afternoon, and welcome to another thrilling conversation on Conversations in Education. I am your host, Vincent Cheeks. It is Tuesday, October the 26th, and I would like to thank you for joining us. It is always a pleasure to be in your company. So, today I am going, well, before I do that, first let me say the thoughts uh, and opinions given on this show are strictly those of the show host and not WCEG Network. I want to make that clear. Today, I'm going to talk about a very controversial subject, which is to vaccinate or to not vaccinate. And I thought about this for a couple of weeks, if I really wanted to do this or not, because I just really didn't want to get into the middle of these sometimes angry and full of vitriol conversations that I have been a part of, that I have observed, and that I have read about. Um, so we'll get to that in a second. And I was going to do this as a debate show, bring on pro vaccine versus pro natural immunity. But I thought that might get a little dicey, and I didn't want anybody to be held responsible for what gets said on this show pertaining to this particular subject except me. Okay. So, what I would like to ask my listening audience before I get started is if you're pro vaccine or pro natural immunity, whatever your stance is, um, tell me why you're taking that position. And if you're a pro vaccine, I will challenge you to convince me of why I should get the vaccine. I've had this conversation with a couple of pro vacciners a couple of times, a good number of times over the past few months. And sometimes it has been pleasant, and sometimes it has been not so pleasant. And here's my overall goal with the show that I'm doing today. I'm not pushing for people to go either way, pro vaccine or pro natural immunity. I don't believe in telling grown people what to do. What I am going to do today is share what I have found, share my experiences, and share my perspective. And I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just sharing. But I do know there's a lot of anger and vitriol surrounding this subject. So I'm going to tell you where I stand. If you don't mind, please tell me where you stand. Share your thoughts in the comments about why you're pro vaccine or pro natural immunity. And let's have a civil discourse when it comes to this. And that's my whole thing is I want people to be able to have this discourse and have it in a civil way without name calling, without threatening people, without insulting people. It's just gotten really, really ugly. And so, but let me digress for a second. I have a few announcements to make, and then I'm going to get back to today's topic. So, my first announcement is I want to send a special thank you to Historic Oakland Cemetery. I and some other actors, we are currently performing in their production called Capturing the Spirit of Oakland. It is an absolutely amazing production. You get to come through the cemetery and they um, they choose about 7 people from the cemetery whose story they want to tell. And then on the tour, you come around and you stop at these people's particular plots. There's an actor performing and telling you that person's story. And it's a really good history lesson, if nothing else. But it's a really nice tour. It sells out every year and it's been getting rave reviews. I am playing James Tate. I have a wife, Olivia Tate, and it's a really fun skit. If you never heard of James and Olivia Tate, like I had never heard of them prior to doing this, I'm going to share with you who they are. James Tate was the first successful, wealthy businessman in Atlanta after the Civil War. So he moved here. Well, he and Olivia were slaves. They got married. They had 2 children. Olivia, they lived on different plantations. Olivia's slave master moved her and the 2 children to Alabama. James's slave master was also his father. Um, and so James eventually got his freedom from his father. His father gave him some money so he could move to Atlanta after the Civil War and start his own business, James Tate and Sons Dry Goods. The Tates also started Friendship Baptist Church, which, if you know, is one of the 2 oldest churches in the city of Atlanta. There was a big controversy when we got the new Mercedes-Benz stadiums for the Falcons because that they were tearing down these 2 historical churches, and there was a whole big issue. But eventually they got worked out. The churches did get compensated nicely, anywhere from $15 to $20 million, I believe. But the point was they were historic Black churches and they had to be torn down in order to build the new stadium. And I don't know if a lot of you all remember this, but there was an elderly Black woman. She had to be in her late 80s, early 90s. Once all the sales were final of these churches, this elderly Black woman came on the news and she said out her mouth, I remember this. She said the Atlanta Falcons will never win anything again because of how they disrespected and mistreated these historical Black churches. Why do I bring that up? I bring that up because I find it interesting that the man I played, James Tate, founded this church, Friendship Baptist. And a lot of people are up in arms about the Falcons not only losing the Super Bowl that they were in 2016, but losing in the greatest embarrassing fashion possible. So once I remembered the curse, if you will, that this elderly woman put on the Falcons, them losing the Super Bowl the way they did made absolutely all the sense in the world to me. So Falcons fans, if you are eagerly awaiting for a Super Bowl championship to come to the city of Atlanta, I don't know how long this woman put this curse on the city for, but I just know she did it. So you might not believe in that kind of stuff, but I do. Okay, so James Tate and Olivia Tate, they started Friendship Baptist Church, and they started the first elementary school, the first Black elementary school in the basement of Big Bethel Church, which was another church that they helped to found. So that is their claim to fame. And as a Black entrepreneur, I don't know if you can see that, as a Black entrepreneur and a Black educator, I am very honored to be standing in the shoes of James Tate and his wife, Olivia Tate. It's absolutely it's an absolutely amazing story. And I'm honored to be a part of it. Thank you, Mary and Matt over at the historic Oakland Cemetery. And as someone pointed out in the comments, the Falcons were losing before that, which is absolutely true. But I just believe that once this elderly melanated woman put that color purple curse on the Falcons, that just took it to a whole another level. So the losing, I believe, is going to continue. I'm not hoping for that. I'm just saying they did destroy 2 historical Black churches. So I'm gonna leave it at that and move on. So thank you, Historic Oakland Cemetery. Thank you to James and Olivia Tate, our ancestors, and for their contributions to the city of Atlanta. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to give another special thanks to Emory Midtown. I had to go to Emory Midtown last week for high blood pressure. I didn't realize that I was putting myself under so much stress, but being an entrepreneur is stressful. Being an entrepreneur with no money, trying to build a business is even more stressful. And I wanted to shout out Emory because I've gone to doctors over the years with no insurance. I haven't had insurance for a very long time. And usually when I go to places, they'll poke me 3 times and they'll say, boy, there's nothing wrong with you. Get up out of here. And then slap me with a $5,000 bill. So shout out to Emory Midtown because they did not do that to me. They took me in, they gave me some of the best care I have ever received as an uninsured person. And so I just wanted to big them up and give them a special shout out because that's that's rare in the medical profession. And so I just wanted to thank them. They got me right, and I was able to continue with other things that I had to do, important things that I had to do that weekend. So thank you very much. And my last announcement is the Kaumba Storytellers of Georgia, one of the organizations, one of the great organizations that I am a part of. This coming Saturday, October 30th, they are having their 8th annual Triple Tales Fall Family Storytelling Festival. It's going to be held at the Wren's Nest on Ralph David Abernathy, October 30th from 12 to 2 p.m. And they will have a dedication in loving memory of Miss Ann V. Wallace. Rest in peace, Miss Wallace. So again, the Kaumba Storytellers of Georgia, 8th annual Triple Tail Fall Family Storytelling Festival at the Wren's Nest. You must pre-register in order to go. It is a free event, but you must pre-register. And you can register at wrensnest.org, WRENSNEST.org, wrensnest.org. It will be a fun, story-filled family event that everyone can enjoy, and it's absolutely free. Okay, that's the best part. So y'all make sure y'all go and support and have a good time that Saturday. Okay, so let's delve into this topic: to vaccinate or to not vaccinate. And I think there are three things that you have to look at when you're having this conversation. Just was told November 6th, daylight saving times ends. So it's going to be getting darker sooner. So that's November 6th, daylight saving times end. So to vaccinate or not vaccinate. Let me preface this by saying I am not an anti-vaxxer, okay? I am not an anti-vaxxer. People want to lump everybody into categories that don't take this vaccine. And I just want to make that clear that I am not anti-vaccine, okay? If you've evaluated the situation and analyzed the situation, and you've come to the conclusion that the vaccine is what's best for you, I have no problem with that. I'm all for that. If you've done the same, analyzed the situation, and come to the conclusion that you prefer the natural immunity route, I have no problem with that. I'm for natural immunity, and I will share with you why in a second. And again, if you're out there and you're listening and you think you can present an argument good enough that will convince me to get a vaccine or even consider getting a vaccine, I implore you to do that in the comments. What is natural immunity? Natural immunity is you've gotten COVID, you've recovered from COVID, and now your body has built up natural antibodies to fight off COVID in the future. So is natural immunity well, the whole thing is controversial, but natural immunity is not being spoken about a lot because just the media and the news aren't talking about it. I don't know why. It's a real thing, but I don't know why it's being suppressed in the media the way that it is. So I believe that I have natural immunity because I've had COVID and I recovered from it. I'll get into that in a second. When having this discourse with people moving forward, I implore people to, if nothing else, have empathy and understanding for the other person's point of view. A lot of things I've seen have been angry and have been filled with vitriol, name calling, insults. I've been insulted. I haven't called one person out of their name for wanting to get the vaccine. Because again, I don't believe you can tell grown people what to do. If you've analyzed the situation, that's what you choose, awesome. If you analyze the situation and you don't choose it, guess what? Awesome, in my opinion, my humble humble opinion. So, okay, the three factors I think that should be looked at when you are having this discourse with someone. The first factor is age. I put these two together: age and medical history. Age and medical history. In my experience, I've noticed that a lot of the older adults or elders in the community, um, they are more concerned about COVID than people my age and, of course, people younger than me. So you have to factor in people's age when you're going to have this conversation with people. You also have to factor in their medical history, because we all know that COVID primarily attacks the elderly and it attacks people with underlying medical conditions. I've never had any underlying medical conditions. The experience I just mentioned with high blood pressure last week, that was my first ever experience having issue with high blood pressure. So I've never had any underlying conditions. I don't take any prescription medication still, thank God, because the doctor last week saw fit to not put me on prescription medication, which I was quite worried about. So again, you have to take people's age into consideration when you're having this conversation, and you have to take people's medical history. I put age and medical history in the same category together. That's number one. The second category you have to look at when engaging in this conversation is experience. What is the person's experience with COVID that you're engaging in the conversation with? Has that person had COVID? Has that person never had COVID? Did they recover from it? Was there COVID? If they had COVID, was it severe? Was it extreme? Or was it not severe? My COVID case was not severe at all. So that's the second factor. So the first factors are age and medical history. Second one is experience. What has your experience been with COVID? And another one that goes in experience is, have you lost anyone to COVID? I think most people I know at this point have lost somebody to COVID. And I want to say rest in peace to all the people that we have lost to COVID. And worldwide, that number is 4,974,935. So rest in peace to everyone that has been lost to COVID. I want to put that out there because I've also been told that I don't care about people because I won't get the vaccine, which is the furthest thing from the truth. I have a question about, what about those who've had COVID with no symptoms? That's asymptomatic. I'll address that in 1 second. Let me finish this thought. And I don't really have much experience with people who've been asymptomatic. I only know one person that was asymptomatic, and it was a cousin of mine in Albany, Georgia. But we'll address that in a second too. The third thing that you need to consider when having this discourse with people, you have age in medical history, you have their experience with COVID, and the last one is their perspective. Because everybody, based on their experience, is going to have a different perspective on COVID and what COVID is. And I've challenged you all to try to convince me of why I should get the vaccine. And that's going to be extra challenging for those who take on that challenge, because in order to convince me why I should get the vaccine, you have to convince me why, as a Black man in America, I should trust the United States government. I've never trusted the United States government. And then probably back in 2014, I started exclusively researching and studying the United States government. And believe me, the things I found out about the United States government were not good, okay? So In order to convince me, Vincent Cheeks, to get the vaccine or even consider getting the vaccine, you have to convince me of why, as a Black man in America, I should trust the United States government. So that's your challenge for the next few minutes. Okay, so let me share my experience first with COVID. I'll tell you my story, tell you what happened, and then you can decide if it was COVID or not, because I've even had people tell me that if you might not have had COVID because I didn't get tested. I didn't test positive for COVID. Let me tell you what happened. So this was March. It was the Monday after the NBA shut down. And I believe that date was March 11th. Yeah, that was March 11th. The NBA shut down. Up until that point, I was not believing in COVID. I wasn't believing what the media was saying about COVID. I believed COVID was real because prior to that, I had seen videos of people in Wuhan, China, that they had put, people in Wuhan, China had put videos on YouTube screaming out of windows that they were being held against their will by the government. They couldn't leave their houses. You know, something was going on with this sickness that nobody knew what it was, but they felt like the government knew what it was and was suppressing everything. So I saw a lot of videos about that on YouTube. So when the NBA shut down, now I'm really starting to believe that this is serious, right? Because the NBA shutting down, they're losing millions upon millions, possibly billions of dollars for the number of games that they canceled that first week that they did that. I believe that was on a Wednesday that the NBA shut down. That following Monday, I'm still skeptical. I'm still not fully believing this whole COVID thing. So that Monday following the NBA shutdown, I was driving for Uber. I picked up an Asian woman. I started not to say her race, but a big part of this whole COVID thing has been centered around. It started with Asians. It started in Wuhan, China, even though I don't think that has been fully proven yet. But that's the only reason why I say her race. So I picked up this Asian woman from a doctor's office. I remember it was about 9 o'clock that Monday morning. I picked her up. We're driving down the highway. As we're driving down the highway going into downtown, she starts coughing uncontrollably. Okay. I mean, she's just hacking up her lungs in my back seat. And at this point, I'm like, lady, if you don't stop coughing in my car, I'm gonna put you out on the side of 75, because that's how bad she was coughing in my car. Now I wasn't really gonna do that. But that's what I was feeling because of how much she was coughing. Mind you, I didn't have on a mask at the time, but she had on a mask. She had on one of these, the surgical mask. You've all seen these everywhere by now. She had on one of these. So I don't really think it was preventing her COVID from getting out. So I dropped her off. I go about my business. That was Monday. So does anyone know the incubation period? Well, does anybody remember at that time the incubation period for COVID? Let me remind you, the incubation period was 3 to 5 days before you start showing symptoms. So that happened on a Monday. That following Wednesday night, I had to pack. I was going to Fort Lauderdale, Florida the next day, that Thursday. My cousin had passed from a heart attack, rest in peace, cousin brother. And so I had to go down there for his funeral. That Wednesday night, I packed my clothes, I was playing music, I was dancing, I was bopping, I was feeling good. I was feeling great, really. And really kind of excited to be going home. So I packed up that night. I went to bed about midnight that night. I woke up the next morning, about 7 a.m., 7 or 8. And all of this was congested. All of this across my face was congested. I had a sore throat. My body felt like Tyson had punched me about 5 or 6 times. I was kind of achy and all of that. And I really didn't know what was going on. And I was really kind of confused because the night before I felt perfectly fine. I didn't, usually I'll feel a cold coming on or something, but I didn't feel anything that Wednesday night. Woke up, I have all these symptoms. Now, mind you, I'm going home to Fort Lauderdale to stay with my mother, who is in her late 60s, at the time. So I called my mother and I let her know, Mom, I woke up sick today. I'm not sure what's going on. This COVID thing is going around, so maybe I shouldn't come down there. She tells me to come home anyway because they were getting ready to do the country, the lockdown, the whole lockdown. And she said, if they're gonna do the lockdown, I need you to be down here. Fine. So I go to Fort Lauderdale. I drive 10 hours straight that Thursday to Fort Lauderdale. Can barely breathe. My chest is kind of tight, but I'm feeling good enough to drive home. Get to Fort Lauderdale. My mom sees how sick I am. She wants me to get in the bed, tells me to lay down, get some rest. I do that. She comes in, she's putting VAXX all on my chest, under my nose. She's talking about the devil is a lie. My baby ain't sick. The devil is a lie. Putting VAXX all over, right? I'm aggravated because at this time, I'm still not sure if it's COVID. So I don't want her in my face like that. But she's in mom mode, being mom. So I let her do what she does. Those initial symptoms lasted from Thursday to the following Monday. Mind you, I feel horrible. All of this is congested. I had the light headache. I had every symptom of COVID except for the fever. Every symptom except the fever. Because at that time, loss of taste and smell wasn't part of the symptom. So I had every symptom except the fever. So those symptoms lasted from Thursday to Monday. That Monday, my congestion started clearing up and all this stuff. But what happened that Monday was I got the scratch in my throat. And then if anybody out there has had COVID, you know what that scratch in your throat is. And that scratch in your throat that won't go away no matter what you eat, drink, or do, it's not going away. It's right here in the middle of my throat. And it produced this cough. I couldn't stop doing it. I couldn't stop coughing. And it wouldn't stop itching my throat no matter what I did. And I couldn't figure out why. But at this time, every video that I've seen on Facebook or social media or wherever, on the news even, everybody that had this cough was darn near coughing up their lungs, hacking up their lungs. So I got the little cough. I'm like, I'm not understanding what it is, but I know it's not that, what I'm seeing. So still wasn't sure it was COVID. The scratch and the cough lasted for 6 days. Okay, it lasted from Monday to Saturday. By the end of the day, Saturday, that following Saturday, it was gone. At that time, still wasn't sure if it was COVID. It wasn't until a week later, I was watching the news and they did a story on Tom Hanks. I don't know if y'all remember, but Tom Hanks was the first celebrity that got COVID. They showed a picture of Tom Hanks the day before in his meeting that he was in. They showed him sitting at a table with other people, and he had the same cough that I had. He kept turning, doing the same cough I was doing. It wasn't hacking up his lungs, but it sounded and looked like the exact same cough that I had. So at that point, I'm like, oh, I think I had the vid, right? 99% sure. The only reason I'm that 1% is because I didn't get tested. And other people are trying to tell me that because I didn't get tested, that it could not have been COVID. So I'm asking you all out there right now, based on what I just told you, if you don't think that was COVID, please tell me what you think it was. Please. My ears are open. I'm listening. I've had more than one person tell me that, oh, you didn't get tested for COVID, then it probably wasn't COVID. Okay, well, I know my body. I know how I have never experienced anything like what I experienced. The closest thing I could think of that I experienced like that was the flu. And they've been saying the flu and COVID are very similar. But the difference between the flu and COVID was that scratch in the throat, in the cough. It was the most aggravating, irritating thing I have ever experienced in my life. I wouldn't wish that on nobody. That was the worst part to me. And I remind you, thank you. Just because it didn't get tested doesn't mean I didn't have it. That is true. But you can't tell some people that. Some people feel like just because I didn't get a positive test that I don't know my body and I don't know these symptoms that I had that I've never had before and that it wasn't COVID. I don't argue that point anymore because I have resigned myself that I'm not going to argue with people that are determined to misunderstand me. I'm just not going to do it anymore. So that was my experience with COVID. As far as me having COVID, I was in the house with my mom and my cousin, older cousin, both of them 65 plus. Neither one of them got COVID. Neither one of them, which was absolutely amazing to me because at this point, I was told, media, government, whoever else, that if you come in contact with somebody with COVID, you're going to get COVID. My mother and my cousin did not get COVID. That's not the only incident. Still based on my experience that I've had with COVID, I'm going to tell you a story about my godmother and my godfather. Rest in peace, Charles Slaughter. If y'all have someone out there who have passed the COVID, give me their name and I will, rest in peace. I will say their name. So that was my COVID experience in March of 2020. That following month, April of 2020, my godfather passed from COVID. And this is another argument that people have presented to me as to why I should get the vaccine. Because when I tell them I'm not getting the vaccine, they say, oh, you must not have had anyone close to you die from COVID. I don't understand the correlation between the two, but that's what I've been told. So then I have to tell them the story of my godfather, Charles Slaughter, rest in peace. My godfather, April 2020, he passed from COVID. He had one of the worst cases of COVID that the doctors at Piedmont Hospital in Atlanta had ever seen, because he was in Albany, Georgia. They had to airlift him from there to Piedmont Hospital here in Atlanta because he had one of the worst cases of COVID ever. Unfortunately, he passed in the hospital alone. I believe he was on a ventilator. I'm not 100% sure about the ventilator. Nevertheless, my godmother, who lived in the house with him, who slept in the bed with him, who I'm sure was affectionate with him, did not ever get COVID, ever. She never tested positive for COVID. How does that happen? Because I'm, as a lot of pro-vacciners like to tell me, I'm not a doctor or a scientist. So that means apparently I don't know anything. So if somebody out there can answer that question for me, how does that happen? How does somebody have one of the worst cases of COVID that the doctors have seen up until that point and not transmit it to the person that they're living in the same house? Right? Doesn't make sense to me. So now at this point, and this is still early in the COVID process, at this point, I have had two situations where I have had COVID and the people I was in the house with didn't get it. And my godfather passed from COVID and the person he was in the house with didn't get it. So now I'm like, okay, so that flies in the face of what the media is saying, that everybody is going to get COVID. It's just not true. I had another cousin. Her and her husband got COVID. She had symptoms. He was asymptomatic. Their grown son in the house with them did not get COVID. How does that happen? Why does that happen? Nobody is talking about this. Nobody is talking about these cases. And I know it's not just happening in my family and the people that I'm close to. So why is this happening? How can people be in the same enclosed space with other people that have COVID, whether it's the regular COVID or the asymptomatic COVID, and not pick up this virus that is so communicable and so contagious, right? How does that happen? Can anybody answer that question for me? Because nobody's answering that question. Nobody's even having the discussion, which is a cause for pause for me to question the government and the medical profession as to why are we not looking into this? Why are we telling everybody that everybody's going to get COVID when that's not the truth? From my experience, I can only speak from my experience. That's all I have to go on. And I will quickly tell people, no, I'm not a doctor. No, I'm not a scientist. But I have had experiences, and I believe my experiences that I've had. And you can't take my experiences away from me. You can't flip or slant or skew my experience and make it into something else, because I experienced it. And I know for a fact that this is what it is. So that's why I try to get people to understand you have to understand where the other person is coming from if you're going to engage in this discourse. Okay, so this comment says, I came into contact with 3 family members and they didn't contract COVID. Since the doctors and scientists don't know or have the answers, that's the more reason for me to take the vaccine. Okay, so let's talk about this vaccine. What does the vaccine do? Because when the vaccine was first being made, they were saying that it was going to stop people from getting COVID. I know that because I heard that. I heard it on the news. I heard it from several people's mouths in the government, politicians, CNN. Like, I heard it. Vaccine is going to stop you from getting COVID. My question is, does the vaccine stop you from getting COVID? Anyone? I can tell you the answer is no, because I don't know anybody that got the vaccine that had COVID, but I know people that got the vaccine that got COVID. So it happens. So why? I heard it would help if you contracted. Help how? Because from what I was told, the vaccine, if you get COVID, it stops you from getting as sick and it prevents you from dying, right? Let me know if it's more to it than that. But from first it was supposed to stop you from getting COVID, but then that didn't work. So now they had to change the narrative, because they went from you won't get COVID if you get the vaccine, but then you did get COVID from getting when you got the vaccine. So now the narrative had to change to, oh, that's just a breakthrough case. That's not the norm. I know there's been a lot of breakthrough cases. So if there have been a lot of breakthrough cases, can we still call them breakthrough cases instead of just call it the normal COVID? Like, I don't understand that. The vaccine will keep you from going on an event only if your immune system is not compromised. The vaccine will keep you from going on an event only if your immune system is not compromised. Okay. So again, why would I get the vaccine if it's not 100%? Because when the vaccines were first being made, they said you won't get COVID. I heard that a lot. Then when the vaccine comes out and people are getting breakthrough cases, there's still not a problem with the vaccine. I don't understand it. Because if the vaccine was initially supposed to stop me from getting COVID, and then it had to be amended to, oh, well, if you get COVID, you won't get as sick and you won't die. It'll stop you from dying. Well, my immune system did that. My immune system did exactly what people are telling me the vaccine will do. I didn't get that sick. Those 10 days I was sick, I was walking up, I was around, I wore my mask because I wasn't sure what it was. So I did wear a mask, but I was going to the grocery store for my mom. I'm going to the post office. I'm running errands to my auntie house. Like I was good. I mean, I felt my body was sore and achy, congested, but I was still able to move. I've heard stories people couldn't get out of bed because they were that sick with COVID. So my point is, people are going to have different experiences when they get COVID, or different experience of other people's experiences that have dealt with COVID. But there's not a one size fits all solution that comes with the COVID thing. That's my only point of even having this discussion today. I'm not pushing anybody to go with natural immunity, because I understand people are scared. People are afraid of COVID. People are afraid of dying. I get that. I understand that, especially the people that are in the high risk categories, the elderly, the people with underlying conditions. I get that. Vaccine. How did I know I had it? But what I just said. By what I said, telling my story of my symptoms and the 10-day period that I dealt with this thing that I had. And I can only call it a thing now because some people say it wasn't COVID because I didn't have a positive test. And I'm willing to let them have that. I'm not going to agree with that. But if that's what people want to believe, then I don't have the energy to fight them on that. And I'm not, because it's just, says duh, but you're not a doctor. I am not a doctor, and I don't have to be a doctor to know my body. I don't speak on anybody else's body. I don't speak on, I have not told anybody what to do with anything that's going on since COVID has happened, because I don't believe in telling other grown people what to do. Grown people are going to do what they're going to do. I've never been one to let people tell me what to do in my life, especially if it's by force. I don't let people force me to do anything. So that's never been a thing. And it never will be a thing, not with me. I'm not going to say you did not have COVID, but since you did not get tested, that was not verified. Okay. I'm not going to say you did not have COVID, but since you did not get tested, that's not verified. Right. It was verified with me, though. My experience and me knowing my body and me knowing that I've never been sick like that. I've never had those symptoms before. I've had the flu. I know what the flu feels like. And my body did feel like I had the flu as far as being achy. But those other symptoms I had, so tell me what that was, the scratch I had in my throat and the cough for 6 days. Tell me what that was. If it wasn't COVID, please tell me what that was. Somebody, anybody, please, I'm listening. Please tell me what it was. And here's the thing with that I'm finding with pro-vaxxers. You can present information, or I can present information to them that goes against what they believe. And instead of even considering the information, they'll just dismiss it and come up with another excuse. So now the big manipulation is now, if you don't get the vaccine, you don't care about your family. That is hilarious to me. First of all, you assume that everybody gets along with their family. They do not. Charles Barkley, Stephen A. Smith, these are people. You don't get the vaccine for yourself. You get it for your family. You get it for your coworkers. Everybody don't get along with their family. Everybody don't get along with their coworkers. People have to do what they feel is best for them. Somebody said what I had could have been a strain of the flu. Okay, does the flu come with that scratch in your throat and the cough? Because I've had the flu before. Right, I did self-diagnose because no flu. The flu does not come with a scratch in your throat that produces a cough that does not go away. I've had the flu probably 3 times in my life, and I've never had that happen. Absolutely never. Okay. Again, I'm not going to argue that point. If people want to believe that I didn't have COVID, that's fine. But guess what? I move and I act like I've had COVID and I got antibodies because I know that I do. I went to Vegas last October for my birthday. Uh, I had a designer mask from my aunt, and I had a very thin um, other little mask that I know wouldn't stop at nothing because I could breathe through it too easily. But anyway, I'm out in Vegas. How am I living reckless? I haven't lived reckless since COVID started. How am I living reckless? I'm not understanding where that comment came from. I'm living reckless because I went to Vegas. I don't understand that comment. Anywho, so I go to Vegas. I'm in Vegas for almost a week. The only thing I have on is these designer face masks that my aunt made, and the other one I bought from the store. The next month when I go home, my mother, my brother's wife, they all tell me that the face mask that I had when I was in Vegas, they don't work. All they do is look good while they covering your mouth and nose. I was told they don't work at all. So if that's the case, and I'm in Las Vegas with all these people in the COVIDs, and I'm wearing masks that don't work, shouldn't I have gotten sick? Because according to some of y'all, I didn't have COVID to begin with in the first place. So I wouldn't have antibodies. So if that's the case, and I'm in Las Vegas with all these people and all this COVID, shouldn't I have gotten COVID then? No? Anyone? 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 Right? Because COVID is so super contagious, and I believe that by the time I went to Vegas last year, it was another strain out. So it's so super contagious. I'm not wearing proper masks, but I still didn't get COVID. The flu strain differs every year. You can confirm your illness with tests that will identify the antibody in your system. There's no need to speculate. Okay, you're right. There is no need to speculate. Like, I could go get an antibody test. I don't need to. I haven't been sick. I haven't had any bouts of COVID again ever since March of 2020, and we're about to go into 2022. I'm good. I go out. I've gone in the stores. I leave my mask in my car sometimes. I'm not going to run back to my car and grab my mask. I'm only in the store for 5 minutes. But I'm not in there thinking, oh my God, I'm about to get COVID because I didn't have my mask on for 5 minutes. That doesn't happen a lot, but it has happened a couple of times. And I'm not, oh my God, oh my God, I think I'm going to get COVID because I'm in the store for 5 minutes without a mask on. No, I don't give into that. I have not had an antibody test. If you don't believe masks are no good, why wear one? Did I say masks were no good? I don't recall saying that. Now, I don't believe, no, I said that the mask that I was wearing in Las Vegas, I was told when I came back from Las Vegas that those masks were no good. And if those masks were no good and they don't prevent the spread of COVID, what I'm saying is I should have had COVID when I came back from Las Vegas. And I did not. That's all I'm saying. But since this person brought this up, some face covering is better than none. I don't believe that. You telling me that this stopping COVID, this little flimsy thing stopping COVID, that when I put it on, it's still openings right here on the side. So COVID can't get through them openings. COVID can't get through here. COVID dumb. COVID stupid. It don't know. It helps what? I just watched a video on Rand Paul. Rand Paul said cloth masks do not work. These masks do not work. Rand Paul, who's a senator and a physician, says that N95 masks are the only ones that really work. So guess what? If you don't have on an N95 mask, you got a face decorator. See, now he's crazy. Why does he have to be crazy? Why does he have to be crazy? Because he has a different opinion or he has a different perspective. I don't even want to say opinion. The man is a physician. He has a different perspective than other people. Why does he have to be crazy? And that's my point. Like with this whole thing, again, I haven't called anybody out their name one time with any of the conversations that I've had about COVID. But I've been called crazy. I've been called stupid. I've been called ignorant. I've been called selfish. And my favorite one of all, a walking super spreader. Okay? So I don't know how I'm a walking super spreader because I don't want to get this vaccine. And she said that this friend of mine who called me that said that because I started DJing in July and I've DJed a couple of events. So she's assuming that I'm going to these events just all willy-nilly and I don't care. And that's another thing. There's a lot of assumptions going on. There's a lot of assumptions going on about a lot of things. So if a surgical mask helps in an OR, I mean, I get, if you want to believe that this stops COVID, that's fine. The people that wear them face shields, if you want to believe that COVID can't go up, under, to the side of that face shield, that's fine. I'm not going to call you out your name for that. It's not working, but I'm not going to call you out your name for that. There are a lot of misconceptions on both sides. My thing is, and here's the thing, like I know people calling people out their name, people are ending friendships, people are ending family relationships, family ties. I don't have a problem with that. Here's the thing. People who don't believe in the vaccine, here's what you have to understand. The pro-vaxxers, they're afraid. They're afraid of COVID and they're afraid of dying. And that's been another excuse or another thing people will say to me for why I should get the vaccine. If I don't get the vaccine, I could die. Well, I didn't die the first time I had COVID. There's the first thing. And secondly, I'm not afraid of dying. So trying to scare me with death centered around COVID, that's never gonna get anywhere with me because I'm not afraid of dying. I've never been afraid of dying. I wasn't afraid of dying before I had God in my life. And now that I have God in my life, I'm really not afraid of dying. So trying to scare me with the fear of death, that's never going to be a valid argument. Never, ever, ever, ever. But my whole thing is, if you can't have a civil discourse with people about this, then just don't have it. People are calling people names, people cutting people off from their families. And here's the thing. I've been told, well, if you don't get a vaccine, you can't come around me or my family. I'm fine with that. I'm not going to get upset. If you believe that me coming around you being unvaccinated could possibly bring you death, why would I be upset that you don't want me to come around? But I've seen other people get upset because their family and friends have told them, you can't come around me if you're not vaccinated. I'm not getting into all that. If that's how you feel, fine. I respect that. And that's the thing. There needs to be a greater level of respect on both sides for how the other person is feeling. Like, I understand people are afraid of dying and people are afraid of COVID. So if you tell me you don't want me around you because of that, I'm not going to get upset. Not at all. You probably doing me a favor too. But here's the thing with the pro-vaccine. The pro-vaxxers are acting like you can't get COVID with the vaccine, which is absolutely false. They're acting like you can't die from COVID once you get the vaccine. That's not true. People are dying from getting the vaccine. People are having adverse side effects from getting the vaccine, and the media is not talking about it. I wonder why that is. Maybe because the media is just an extension of the government, and the government wants everybody to get this vaccine for whatever reason. I don't know what their reason is. I don't really care what their reason is. I've never trusted the government. So until you can give me a reason to trust the government, I'm never going to get the vaccine. I promise you. And if that means you don't want to be around me, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But it doesn't have to get ugly and be name calling and bashing. All of that has to stop. So if you don't believe in the vaccine, that's fine too. Let the people that believe in the vaccine, let them get it, let them have it. I hope the vaccine works, to be perfectly honest. I have a lot of friends and family that have taken the vaccine. So I hope the vaccine works and I hope there's nothing wrong with it. But I'm not one of those people that say, there are videos on Facebook where people, their injection site, they saying it's become a magnet and they're putting they're sticking stuff to their arm on their injection site. I don't know if that's true. I'm not one of those people that's going to say, if you take the vaccine, you're going to grow a third ear under your arm and you got to listen to people like this when they talk. I'm not one of those people. I'm not. If you want the vaccine, great. But don't knock me for not wanting the vaccine. It's just not going to happen. Do you believe schools should mask up? Don't get the vaccine if you don't want to, but don't expose others to your choices. But at least mask up to protect those that aren't. Okay, that's another assumption that I don't wear masks. I wear masks when I go out in public. Why? Not by my choice. I wear a mask because I want other people to be comfortable. And I know it makes other people comfortable, whether I believe the masks work or not, which I don't. Well, not all of them, most of them. But I'm not running around here willy-nilly acting like COVID's not out there, because I know it's real and I know people are dying from it. But I'm not going to let anybody pressure me to go against what I feel is best for my body. If I have natural immunity, why do I need something else that's going to boost my immunity when my natural immunity did what it was supposed to do? I'm all for masks if it makes people feel comfortable. And another thing that I do, when I go on my events out of town or DJing, wherever I go, guess what I do? I take a COVID test. I've never tested positive for COVID. Never. I've taken at least 7 COVID tests in the past year, and I've never tested positive. So those people that say you could be asymptomatic, when I go take a test, the asymptomatic COVID goes away and hides. So my test to come back negative and then it come back. I don't know about that. But you didn't take one before self-diagnosing. What does that mean? What does that mean? Why would I take one then? It wasn't even a thing then. We talking about March of 2020 that I had COVID. Why would I take a COVID test then? It wasn't available for me because I was in Florida, and I would have had to be in Georgia to get a COVID test without paying for it. So no, it wasn't available for me. Why would you say you had it? Because I had every symptom of COVID. And I know my body. And I know I've never experienced anything like that before. And I haven't experienced it since. So either I had COVID and I had antibodies, or I didn't have COVID and I'm just COVID resistant, period. Because I am out here in the community. I am out here doing things. But I'm not gonna argue that point with anybody. People are allowed to think whatever they want to think. I know I had COVID. I know the symptoms I had. I know I've never experienced those things before in my life. And I know I've been good ever since. So you don't have to believe me. I'm not trying to convince anybody. I'm just sharing my experience. That's it. Why would you say, man, shit schools mask? Shit schools mask. That's a tough one because for me, I mean, I guess so. I guess I would say yeah, that schools should mask just because um, it's going to affect each person differently, and you don't know how it's going to affect you. So yeah, I would say schools should mask, um, just so everybody will be comfortable. Because I know teachers that teach that are not comfortable because students aren't coming to school wearing masks. I know parents that are uncomfortable because students are coming to school without masks on. But I also know at one point they were saying COVID didn't really affect the children like that. But I guess with each variant that it changed it. So I would say, yeah, masks should be in school. Right. I did say I've gone in stores before without a mask, but that's not a habit. I'm saying I was in a hurry a couple of times and I'm already in the store. Like I'm not finna run back to my car and get the mask and I'm in the store and I'm usually in the store picking up one or two items. So yeah, I have done that a few times, but that is not my norm. The majority of the times that I go out in public, I'm wearing a mask just because I know it makes other people feel comfortable. Even if I don't think they do work, I still wear the mask. And I wear this mask more recently because I can breathe easier through this mask. And I know if I can breathe easier through this mask, then COVID can probably get through easier. But y'all say this works, so I'll keep putting it on. I don't have a problem putting it on. I can breathe. I can talk. I'm not muffled, sounding like this. So I don't mind wearing the mask. I'm not out here trying to give anybody COVID, and I haven't given anybody COVID, to my knowledge. And that's another thing. People say, well, you could be asymptomatic giving people COVID. Well, if that's the case, then they have contract tracing, right? Contract tracing. If I gave somebody COVID, would come back to me. Correct? That's how contact tracing works. Am I correct? Am I wrong? So if I'm out somewhere and I give somebody COVID, somebody's gonna say, well, that DJ guy was here, and I think he might have gave me COVID, or something to that effect, where some contact tracing to somehow get back to me if I was out here being asymptomatic, just spreading COVID all willy-nilly, right? I know if I haven't tested positive, then it can't be traced back to me. What I'm saying is, if I'm asymptomatic, like people like to try to say, oh, you could be asymptomatic, trying to make me think I'm sick and I'm not sick, and I'm not going to walk around acting like I'm sick and I'm not sick. What I'm saying is, all the places that I have been, if I was asymptomatic and I gave COVID to someone else, contact tracing would eventually bring that back to me, correct? Right. That means I tested positive with no symptoms. Right. But if that's the case, if I'm asymptomatic and I'm out here in the public, like the parties that I've DJ haven't been really big parties. So if I'm out somewhere and if I gave somebody COVID, somebody would say, hey, that DJ guy was here. And I think he could have potentially been one spreading COVID. I should get a phone call, right? Saying, Mr. Cheeks, someone has given your name. They've tested positive for COVID. They're asymptomatic. They've given your name as someone they've been in contact with. Would I not get that call, right? Because people trying to make it seem like I'm out here just spreading COVID, and I haven't spread COVID to anybody, to my knowledge. Absolutely no one. And I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm sick when I know I'm not sick. That just doesn't make sense to me. And then people say, well, no, I ask people, well, when I got COVID the first time, I had symptoms. So if I get it again, I'm not going to have symptoms. So the first time my body let me know I had COVID, and the second time is not going to let me know I had COVID. That doesn't make sense to me. But again, I'm not trying to convince no one of anything. I'm just sharing my experience. My experience has told me not everyone gets COVID. My experience has shown me that natural immunity works. But if you want the vaccine, blessings to you. By all means, get the vaccine if that's what's best for you and your family. I don't believe in telling grown people what to do. So my ending note will be, if you're going to have this discourse, this conversation with people, friends, family, just try to have some understanding of the other person's experience and the other person's perspective of where they're coming from. I know people that got the vaccine are afraid of COVID and afraid of dying. So I understand that. I get that. So if somebody wants me to come see them, guess what? I'm gonna let you know I'm not vaccinated. If you don't want me to come anymore, then I'm not vaccinated. Self-immunity didn't work when you self-diagnosed. I don't know what that means. Self-immunity didn't work when you self-diagnosed. Natural immunity did work when I haven't had COVID since March of 2020. I'm not understanding that statement. Natural immunity didn't work when you self-diagnosed. Right, I did have it. And now because I had it, I have natural immunity. I have natural antibodies. Right. I don't kind of not understanding what you mean by that. But that's okay because I have to go. My final thoughts are, just try to have more understanding when you're going to have this conversation with your friends and family members. It doesn't have to be all the anger and vitriol and insults and name calling. I've had this conversation twice in the past 2 weeks with people who have the vaccine. One of them was my producer, Penny. We had a nice civil discourse conversation without anyone calling names or getting angry or whatever. I'm saying that that's possible. I'm saying that it doesn't have to be all this animosity and anger. That's all I'm saying. That is all I'm saying. Like, let's operate in love. Let's have more empathy and understanding for each other's different experiences and different perspectives. That's all I'm saying. This is not a one size fits all solution to this COVID problem. And it is not the job of the unprotected, the unvaccinated, to protect the protected, the vaccinated. Like, I don't understand why so people are so mad at the people not vaccinated when the vaccine that you got was supposed to protect you from COVID. And this last commenter just said, we can disagree without hating each other. We can disagree without the anger and the vitriol and the name calling and the insults. That's my final thought. Just try to have a little bit more empathy and respect for people's different experiences and different perspectives. Okay? I love you all. Thank you for tuning in. I believe we will be back on November the 9th. And yeah, we'll continue the conversation. We will have a hashtag conversation about something a little less heavy than to vax or to not vax. But I just wanted to, as being a member of the community, just give my thoughts and just ask people to be nicer. Be kind. That's it. Just be kind. And if you can't be kind, then just leave each other alone. Period. Just leave each other alone. Okay. All righty. Thank you all for tuning in to Conversations in Education. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for your thoughts and your comments also. I'm not mad at any comment that was given today because that's how you feel. And I respect the different experience and perspective of each person. It's not that hard to do. All right. I love you guys. Until next time, you all have a blessed week. Be safe, and stay COVID free.